Alright, well, I initially told myself I wasn't going to do this, but given how complicated this game is, probably not a bad idea. So I thought I'd go through, do a very brief overview of the UI elements and how this game works. Keep in mind the manual for this game is over 200 pages, so I'm really going into very basic stuff here. So quick UI elements, starting left side, you've got I can't actually remember what this is called, this panel, but it's like for the various ship stations and everything. This here's your systems panel that shows various systems on the ship. And this here will give you additional systems information depending on what's displayed up here. This is a target information panel down here. I have nothing targeted, so thus you won't see anything. This here, I don't think I've ever seen anything other than a bunch of weird Alcar stuff up here and here. This little chunk of stuff right here shows your weapon systems, and they'll change from green to red depending on if they're ready or not. Your speed, current speed rating, or sorry, your current speed, right now it's 0, my ship's not moving. And this is your throttle bar. You can use A and S to Alpha and Sierra for throttle up, throttle down. One tap is 1 point of speed, or you can just click anywhere on the bar. Your maximum speed's 31. You can never move faster than that, so don't try. Moving over here, this is probably your second or third most important element in the game. This is your maximum power that your ship produces and your current draw. This is core to this game, is balancing your power output and power consumption. The main way you're going to do this once the action starts is by varying your speed. The faster you go, the more power you require, but other things like taking weapons on and offline, shields, pretty much everything you do in this game requires power. So you're going to have to balance that. And then over here is just your alert status. Right now I'm at green alert, or normal. Nothing's going on. Scenario clock, no big deal. Target hull integrity, self-explanatory. Phaser capacitor. So I'll explain that a bit more in detail in a second. Actually, that's that. And then your own hull integrity. You can click this little button here to hide the UI. It won't hide right now because I'm paused. Can I swap any of these? Of course I can. Alright, so first one of these is your helm controls. And these are various helm functions. So these ones here are for various types of high energy turns. What that allows your ship to do is turn a given direction very, very quickly. Here it says chance for het 100. So that means if I select a high energy turn, I have a 100% chance of pulling it off. Every time you do one, this gradually drops, and it gets to the point where, like if you fail, your ship breaks down. And essentially you're dead in the water until your engineer can reset the ship. So it can be very, very risky, but it can also be a huge tactical advantage. Whoops. Oh, I see now. It's doing everything. Give me that back. Oh, there we go. Now I can click through it. Engineering, so this is to repair your ship. If systems get damaged, they'll appear on here, and then you can click the icon to queue them up in your repair stack. This big bar here is to repair your engines. Your warp engines are the main thing that generate power in this game, so if they start to take damage, your power output's gonna decrease. And this is your spare parts here. You'll gradually consume these, and eventually you'll have none left, and if you're on out of spare parts, you cannot repair anything. Science, probes, and deep scan. This is useful in certain scenarios you'll want to use it. You can also use it to basically boost the range of your sensors if there's stuff outside your sensor range. Excuse me. And then probes, you can switch them from scan or attack. Generally, you almost never put a probe in attack mode because there's very strict rules around using probes as a weapon. Essentially, your ship has to be crippled to do it, but otherwise you can have them in scan mode, and it's useful for collecting information on ships when they're a bit of distance away. I'll show that in a second. You have a limited number, but they are always full at the start of every scenario. You don't have to pay for them or anything, they're free. They also take no power to fire, which is nice. Security, this is for your hit and run and capture targets. if you want to try and do hit and run attacks on enemy ship or capturing an enemy ship. This shows your ready transporters, and then you can pause or resume hit and run attacks. Be aware if you have hit and run attacks enabled and you knock down an enemy shield and you're close enough, automatically you will drop a shield and beam Marines over. So just keep that in mind. More than once I've gone, like, say, head-to-head with an enemy ship, had something queued up in here, knocked his front shield down, and then my security guy's like, oh hey, the enemy shields are down, and then drops my front shield to beam guys over, and then I take a full burst of disruptors or something. So keep that in mind. Weapons. This is just various weapon controls. Generally, you're not going to need to worry too much about this. So hotkey toggles. Yeah, you can change it all in here. I don't do too much in this window myself because it's kind of a pain in the ass. And you can do most of it through this window or with various hotkeys. Sorry, I had to go tend to my birds. This is handy if you're trying to capture a ship. Once you start knocking or causing it some hull damage, you can kick this over to fire to cripple. And then at this point, you're going to start targeting its power systems and weapons and things like that. So very handy for things like that if you want to capture a ship. You can deploy mines here. I don't. I use the keyboard. M drops a mine, B it beams one out. Communications. Not really useful for most things. Hit mission briefing. Hostile skirmish. Okay, so... but this will tell you what your mission objective goals are. Defense. This one is kind of important. So the emergency stop. Used primarily in conjunction with Wild Weasel shuttles. So if you're fighting particularly Romulans and they fire a couple of plasma torpedoes at you and you have a Wild Weasel prepared, you'll drop the Wild Weasel and immediately hit emergency stop. Otherwise, the Wild Weasel will lose effectiveness and the plasma torpedoes will start tracking you. Again, there's keyboard shortcuts for all this kind of stuff, and as you get more skilled with the game, you're going to want to start using them. Point defense.
Phaser set to point defense.
I think the shortcut's V.
Point defense activated.
Yeah, shortcut is V, Victor on there. So this basically tells your phasers will automatically target nearby seeking weapons and fighters and things like that. Great if you've got like phaser 3s. Not so great if all you got is phaser 1s, because then you're going to use your powerful offensive phasers to target drones and things, but situationally it's useful. Defensive tractors online. Shortcut is C, Charlie. If you put them online, it's going to set your tractor beams to tractor incoming drones. Very handy, for example, if all your phasers are fired and you got drones incoming, hit your tractor beams, put them on point defense, and you will tractor those drones until your phasers recycle. They'll take out the drones and you're good to go. But again, this takes power. Each tractor beam takes 1 power. So if I put them both on, I can unpause the game here quickly and you'll see it.
Setting tractors to defense.
I set them on and my power consumption went from 3 to 5. So that's something to keep in mind with tractor beams. That's also where you'll have your Wild Weasels. You can launch them from here. Tactical map. Just give you kind of an overview of the immediate area. If you have more than one ship under your command, it's this interface that you will command it through. I'll do a brief explanation of that in a separate video. Power. You can really fine-tune your ship's power consumption in here. It's kind of cool. Generally, I've found in the middle of battle, you don't really have time to do it. Again, unless you learn your shortcut keys. You can also immediately use power from your battery systems right here. So the ship has 4 batteries, so I can give you immediate power. And then various system settings, you know, display your grid, tool tips, immediately exit the game, camera controls, master volume controls, things like that. So that's that panel. So one thing I'm going to do here is I want to actually bring my shields and weapons online. So I'm going to unpause the game and hit R for red alert, and that's going to power up my shields and weapons.
Red alert.
And notice how my power consumption jumped significantly. And I'm still not even moving. Let's pause it there. So now you can see I've got all my weapon systems online they're online, they're just not yet fully charged and cycled. So you can see all the various weapon systems on my ship. The only one that's armed right now is my anti-drone system, so AMD, anti-missile defense. You can individually click on these and toggle the various settings on your weapons. And again, I'm not going to get into what each and every one of these does, particularly on the photons, overloads, and proxies. This button down here selects all your weapons. You can select them using the 1, 2, 3, 4 keys on your keyboard. We'll select different ones, and we're not going to see that reflected in the UI while it's paused. You can assign individual ones by holding down Shift, clicking the weapons. So if I just want all my phasers, say on number 2, select all my phasers, hit Control 2, and then I hit 2, and that selects my phasers. And then, like I said, that button there selects all your weapons. This toggles between weapon icons and fire arcs. So you do that, you can see the fire arcs of all your various weapons. Drones don't have fire arcs because they can fire in any direction they want, same with ADDs. What's next? Sensors. This is where you work with electronic countermeasures and ECCM. So ECM makes you harder to hit. Your target may have ECM activated. ECCM is what you use to counter your target's ECM. And again, this takes power. Everything takes power. Next, is there anything else there? No, that's fine. Transporters, won't generally use it from this window. There are times where you'll need to use them to, like, for example, there's missions where you have to beam stuff to or from stations or planets or whatever. That'll be done through this window. Tractor beam. Tractor beam strength, you can select how strong you want your tractor beam, whether you want to repel something or hold. Repelling is used if you're being held in a tractor beam. Or hold, and then you hit engage, and the tractor beam will charge. I don't have a target selected, so it's not doing anything. And then it'll engage when it comes close, and this is tractor rotation. You can rotate a target left or right. Useful if you're on it to drag a target that's nearby into your firing arcs. So for example, if you're fighting a ship that's more maneuverable and it keeps hanging out to the side of, like, say, your heavy cruiser here, you can tractor it and use tractor rotation and drag it in front of you so you can nail it with your photons. You can do stuff like that. It's really cool. Shuttles, this is where you control your shuttles. You can launch them from here. This is also where you'll control fighters. And if you're flying a ship that has PFs, I don't think any Federation ships do, I think only the Gorns do. But you can launch PFs from here, and you can say, you know, defend me, or defend my target, harass my target, attack my target. Administrative shuttles aren't particularly good fighters, but they do have a Phaser 3, so it can be useful. This is also where you can launch scatter packs. And then this thing down here is where you convert administrative shuttles to various types of weapons. Scatter packs, I think that one's Wild Weasel. I can't remember what these other, one of these is it's a suicide shuttle. Yeah, it's a Wild Weasel, scatter pack, and an assault shuttle. So again, I won't talk about exactly what each of those does. You'll want to look, especially scatter packs, you'll want to look up. Fighters, if you have fighter squadrons, there are Federation carriers. This will tell you the status of any fighters you have. If you have something in space and you want to return, you click on it and hit return, and it'll come back and dock. A couple of other concepts here. Phaser capacitor. This is one I wanted to go over. So basically, your phaser capacitor is a battery for your phasers. So what happens is when you fire phasers, they will drain power from the phaser capacitor. And then your power systems will recharge the phaser capacitor. So what happens is when your phaser capacitor is fully charged, your power consumption will drop because you've already paid for that power to charge the capacitor, and then you can immediately fire your phasers whenever you want. And it's not going to cost you any power at that point until, obviously, at the point of firing, you charge the phaser capacitor, and that's going to cause you power again. What that allows you to do is fully arm your phasers without an energy penalty once they're armed. Unlike certain heavy weapons like photon torpedoes, and plasma torpedoes, they actually cost energy to hold armed in the tubes. So once they're armed, especially if you're overloading the things, you're going to have an energy penalty the whole time you're holding them armed. This is a command cruiser plus refit, so this thing actually has undamaged. It's got plenty of power. I'd have no problem loading photons and holding them overloaded. Once you start taking damage, or if for some reason you need to maintain very high speed, that could be problematic. But that's where things come in, like toggling weapons offline and things if you don't need them. Shield arcs, you have 6 shield arcs, because it's hexagon. Starfleet Battles was originally a hexagon game. Well, it still is a hexagon game. So each shield arc is independent. Oh, that's the thing I didn't go over in here. Shields. You can raise and lower individual shield arcs if you want. Don't really know any situation where you'd want to, but you can. And you can reinforce individual sectors too. So you can hit that to reinforce all your shields, or just specific ones. Usually if I'm going head-to-head with a ship, I'll reinforce, say, one of these two and try and take them, or like these two together, take them on the side. You'll drag this bar over to wherever the hell you want it and hit reinforce. This takes power, and it takes a lot of power. But if you manage to get your shield reinforcement in place when your enemy shoots at you, your reinforcement's going to take the hit, and you can drop the power from this, and it'll help absorb some of that damage for you. Yeah, alright, so your targets will be displayed kind of in these little things around the UI, depending on where they are. You right-click to select a target. Enemies, you can also use the Y key. So I'm just going to use S here to notice as I throttle up here, my speed is, my power consumption is going really high. So just drop there because my phaser capacitor charged. So now I can actually get some speed on. You click on the map to move your ship around. Asterisk follows your target. If you see on the helm, that's follow. That's an F5E War Destroyer.
Probe away.
Normally I wouldn't do it that close, but I wanted to see what he's loaded with. So he's got a lot of drones, so I'm going to stop hitting run rates on those drones. So I'm not reinforcing my shields here. So this is really going to hurt. Oh, by the way, Z, the Zulu key, fires all selected weapons. So there I got some damage past the shields. You saw my shields came down for the hit and run attack. And here I'm just going to put a bit of distance on it. Oh, he's moving speed 22, so he's really booking it. So, okay, so you saw there, I backed off on my speed, and then my power consumption dropped and then increased. That was because I was not arming all my photons, because there was not enough available power. So now my phaser capacitor's charged, my power consumption's back down. He's got 2 ADD systems on there, so I'm actually just going to pull my drones offline. What did we take out? Drones. Try and take out. Let's have an ADD system. You know what? Let's knock the drones out of there. That's fine. I want to try and take out his anti-drone system, so. That's a lot of drones.
Setting tractors to defense.
So here I set my tractors, turn them on, because... Alright, so that was fine, so I did actually manage to destroy all those drones. So what I need to do here is get some damage past this guy into his hull to slow him down.
Hull damage. Target eliminate.
Alright, so I took some bit of damage there. Again, so what happened there, I beamed out Marines, and when I was beaming the Marines out, he shot me. That's why I took hull damage. But we definitely knocked out some power systems, because his speed is way down now. And we can see here, like, I've really caused him a lot of damage. He still has an active ADD system, though. So phaser ones have an effective range I wouldn't shoot them really any further than about 15 hexes. I mean, you could, but speed's still 12. He's still really booking it. And what is that? Oh, Photonics Army. You know what? I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to create a scatter pack to show you guys exactly what it does. This is not a maneuverable starship. Oh, by the way, F5 toggles target follow or just behind your ship. There's a couple of other various camera views you can mess with up here as well. Target and follow is your default. You have overhead if you want it. Speed. Ugh. How much energy do we have? So he's just taking pot shots at my front shield, so you know what? I'm going to reinforce that. Surprised I haven't seen more drones come off him. I didn't actually mean to fire a drone there. These ADDs are just going to take that out probably, so.
Scatter pack shuttle ready.
They've taken moderate damage. System destroyed.
Oh, no, he's behind me.
Mine deployed.
So I use the M key to drop a mine. When you drop them that way, they won't arm until you're out of their blast radius. If you drop them via transporter, they absolutely will. Just be aware of that. It's going to show me... You can see which arc, this white band shows you which arc you're looking at here. So right there, I waited until I was on an arc from him where he had no shields and then fired. Right, so now my scatter pack's ready. So I'm going to take my drones offline, or not offline, I'm just going to select them. And I'm going to use the E key to launch my scatter pack. And hopefully, actually you know what? Oh, it's not armed. Hopefully it deploys before his ADD gets in. There we go. So that's a scatter pack.
Tractor beams set.
So that's a really basic, quick overview of the game. Hope that's useful to you.